Welcome back to Fast Monty's Garage. Today is part 2 of our chassis stiffening project. If you missed part 1, go check it out please, because we did some extensive work to make sure this frame wheel fits underneath the car before I make it permanent. Yeah, why do I say that? Well, these aftermarket kits, which are designed for body-on-frame muscle cars like A bodies, G bodies, C10s, Tri-Five Chevys, might be a few more, I'll leave a complete list below. They are designed to be installed with the body off the frame. Well, not many of us are in that point of our project where the frame is separated from the body. That was a long time ago, and I don't want to go through the hassle of taking the body off the frame to put this in. So that's the point of this playlist. I'm doing it with the body on the frame. And before I make things permanent, I want to make sure that fit. So that was the whole goal of episode 1. We got it to fit. Now, this goal of episode 2 is actually doing step 1, which is boxing in the frame. Sorry, I got lost there. Boxing in the frame with these side channels. And in order to do that, we still have to tackle the driver's side. The driver's side is the most complicated on an A body. We have a fuel line, brake line, and parking brake cable to deal with. So we're going to go look at that. And before we get started, don't forget to get your FMG hat to show some support. But let's go look at the tools that I got to help us along. Here are the 2 tools I got. One being optional, which is a Yes Welder plasma cutter. I've always wanted one, and it's a heck of a lot better than my tabletop bandsaw. So those of you guys that saw episode 1, I use this extensively. We'll be using it more today. You can use a cutoff wheel or a Sawzall or whatever you want to cut material, but this is much more fun. The other thing that's actually mandatory is a MIG welder, or you need a friend with a MIG welder, because we have to get into some tight spots to weld in material. We will be using this today. I also got this from Yes Welder because, believe it or not, the only welding tool that I have in my arsenal is a TIG welder, and I can't use that on this project because of where I have to access. So I got a MIG welder. Now I'm fully armed. I also armed you guys with a 10% off discount code. Go look below. I got the link for Yes Welder with my discount code. Go hit them up. Have fun shopping. Now, let's get back to that driver's side frame rail because we have to talk about those lines. So here's the drama starting in the rear of the car. Your parking brake goes through this hole on both sides of the car. We have to remove that and either make a new hole in the bracket or just relocate it above after we put that frame in, because this is covered by that back brace. Here's my brake line, and here's my fuel line. I have an AN line, but if you have a standard line, your standard line is right next to it. Again, we have to either move those out of the way when we go to weld or figure something out. So let's go to the middle. I know it's tough to see, but I have AN line, so I can actually remove this pretty easily, which I'm going to do. If you have the stock line, you're going to have to carefully either bend it out of the way and work around it, or remove it totally and upgrade your to AN lines. Here's the brake line. What I'm going to try and do is just unbolt it and move it down underneath, because I do have to re-bend this when we have to put it back in. I'm going to try and do this without removing the brake line, because that's always a mess. Let me go to show you the front of the car. So in the front, I'm guessing this is going to be in the way. This is the parking brake cable. So after I bend this out of the way and start working on the frame rail with our crescent wrench trick from the first video, I can then mock up this side frame rail, see where it is. I also suspect it's going to hit this bracket. This bracket is actually for 2 things. One is it currently holds my speedometer cable, but 2, those of you that have 68, 69 GTOs, this is for your reverse lockout holder to your steering wheel. Since I don't have mine anymore, I really don't need this part of the bracket, so we're gonna find out. Update. So I was able to just take the brake line and just pull it down, and it's really not in the way. So that's pretty nice. We can worry about it later. There is a hole, there's a provision for the parking brake cable, which I didn't know about, but it doesn't line up, especially when I cut that flange off and push it up more, because the same gap that happened on the other side up here is in existence. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the flange off like we did last time, and everything else looks fantastic. So I'm going to get to mocking this up completely like we did on the passenger side, and we'll be back for an update. If you guys missed the last video, this is how much I love the Yes Welder plasma cutter. Oh, just missed that little first part. Beep. That was easy. Update for you guys. So here's the front, and remember there's a provision that I didn't know about for the brake cable, but there's the actual hole. I'm a little disturbed because if you were to do this project with the body off and you lined up these holes, your whole transmission brace and everything would be literally an inch lower than normal. Now my car is as low as I want it to be, and I want more clearance for the exhaust. That's why I'm tucking it up under the body. Yeah, disturbing, right? So those of you doing this with the body off, make sure you test fit your body before you make this permanent. Anyway, moving forward, I was debating either moving the hole, but after further thought, I'm just gonna cut this off like that, and we get to use a plasma cutter. If you missed the last episode, you can cut straight lines with a plasma cutter. So this Yes Welder plasma cutter comes with a guard as an option on the cutting head. Now the neat thing is there are two different types of plasma cutters on the market. One is basically touch and other is touchless. To keep it in layman's terms, basically the touch systems, you have to touch the metal to ground it out to start the arc. This is touchless, so this guard actually leaves a gap between the material and the head. What that allows us to do is we can cut through anything. We don't have to have bare steel. We can cut through painted steel, etc., and leave a gap. It increases the life of the electrode too. As you saw when I cut that corner cut, I took the guard off and made a corner cut. So now I used a straight edge, and I'm just going to use that against the guard, cut that flange right off. Here we go. Fire in the hole. Man, I love this tool. Damn. Oh yeah, coming together nicely. I can add a bead right there and probably not even touch the ID of that hole. And if I do, light grinding will get rid of that. Perfect. Weld here, here. I cut the corners off so I can get my torch in there. Yes, coming together. Okay, next step, we got to tackle the frame rails. This is the passenger side rail. It comes as one piece. It covers that whole C channel, and I decided to cut it in half. Let me show you why. So why did I cut it in half? Good question. Now remember, this kit is designed to be installed the body off, and you have to cut this middle piece out of the current frame, which is fine and dandy, but the car is loaded right now. This is loaded up with the body. I do not know if this is a structural support or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut half of it so we can maintain some structural rigidity here, and then fit our back half of the channel, weld it in, then cut this out, and then weld in the front part. At least that's my plan. Now moving forward, we have several options to cut this out. You can use a cutoff wheel, you can use a Sawzall, you can use a hacksaw. But since we have a plasma cutter, let's try that. All right, same thing. I set up a straight edge, and I'm gonna go straight through those holes. And I'm curious, one, we're going through paint. Two, I'm wondering if the arc will just cut out when we get to an opening and turn itself off, which is not a big deal, and just turn it back on. But I'm clamped to that ground off surface. That used to be where my ground strap was to my body, in case you were wondering. So here we go. So I was right, it automatically cut off, so I'll just keep going in increments. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. It even came, I left it on for a couple seconds extra, and it came and cut a hole right to my bottom line. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, for this top line, I'm going to use a little piece of bar stock because I can't use the guard. I don't have enough room. And I'm just going to run it along the edge of the electrode, or the whatever they called that thing, just like this. And cut that piece off. So I kept getting stuck. I don't know if I was hitting this top piece or what, but made it through. Let's cut this bottom piece off. Okay, I had to get a little creative, so I still have my angled aluminum piece here, and I'm ready back to using the guard. And this will be interesting. I'm going to try and be as careful as possible, which is a little hectic when there's sparks flying everywhere. And I'll show you what I'm wearing in a second to prevent any accidents of mic catching on fire. Okay, here we go. And that's what happens when you don't attach a ground clamp like a retard. All right, let's try that again. Now we're talking. Bam! Awesome. Now I can finish this off with my flap disc wheel. So here's what I'm wearing, is a fireproof shirt, pants, welding helmet on the grind setting. That way it's not completely dark when it fires off. So, you know, as they say, safety second, or is it first? I can't remember. All right, here's the progress report. So I spent a couple hours trimming this up, mostly on the ends to get it to fit just nice. Use a cutoff wheel to take off that excess flange. Nice little fit there. And since I can't really use a clamp because it's gonna just suck it in like that, I'm gonna do a trick I saw on TV. Don't worry guys, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I'm gonna tack as I go along. This is actually bowed out. This piece of steel is bowed out. So I'm gonna tack, bend it in, tack along the top, and then hopefully we'll have a nice tight fit at the top seam. And then I can use a clamp to pull in the bottom and then tack along the bottom and finish it off on the ends. That's my plan anyway. So let's get to this. I tried on a couple practice pieces, so this should be set up. I slipped and it still worked. Oh my God. Okay, I'm pushing it up with my thumb. Let's get a tack right here. Nice. Same thing. So while I'm here, I'm going to test my theory before I get too far into this. Yep, theory's going to work. It's awesome. So I'm going to keep going down the line just to keep it tacked to the top edge first. I'll come back and do the front, come back and do the bottom, and we'll see how it goes. There we go, all tacked in. It's looking really good. Now I'm going to do a section at a time. You don't want to put a lot of heat into this because you can still warp the existing frame. I noticed that MIG welding is way hotter than TIG welding. So TIG welding, I can typically do a whole section like from here to here, but that's way too much for MIG. So I'm just gonna go around, fill it all in. I'll show you the latest when I'm done. There you have it, guys. I know, looks like crap. This was the very first weld I did, and I slowly reduced my feed rate, and I got to the point I was doing seams like this. So there's definitely a feed rate thing I'm learning, and I'm also realizing I love TIG welding better because the welds look prettier even though I suck at it. But this is all in. This is nice and solid. I'm gonna go ahead and do the driver's side, and then we get to discuss the point of no return, and that's doing the fronts, because as soon as we box in the fronts, I can't use the stock transmission brace anymore if I change my mind. So there. I'm going to finish the other side. I'll show you the end result. And yes, I'm going to smooth this out with my flap disc grinder just so you can't see it from outside. And we're getting there, we're getting there. All right, learning as I go here. I got the driver's side in, and then I cut this out with the plasma cutter, same trick as we did before. Ground it down to match. So here's the front half of the plate, and it doesn't line up. And what I did on this back plate, I didn't show you guys, I'll do it on this one, is there's an offset here. I used the bottom edge because the bottom edge is straight. Use it as a reference edge. And then I took a 12-inch crescent wrench and bent this down where it was bent up, just to make it flat and straight against this bottom edge. Now there's an offset here, so I took the bend of this plate and the existing bend of the welded in plate, and there's an offset. I'm gonna go ahead and trim that amount off the bottom because I can feel behind here all the way back, it's about the same offset. So I'm gonna give that a shot. Oh yeah, 3/16. Gone. Let's go test it. Here we go. Oh my God, almost perfect. So I can see the top edge and the bottom edge, so we can weld like that. It's a little too long on this side. So let's put it in there as if it was the right size. And then we can see how much it overhangs on this side. And that's the amount right there. So we just have to remove, looks like 3/16-ish off of this end. Yes! Okay, let's see how it looks. Oh my God, perfect. Look at that fit. Maybe a tiny bit of either bending or shaving, but it's gonna fit perfectly. And that means this is the point of no return. I say that because we can still put the transmission brace in if this plate wasn't here, but as soon as we weld this in, this becomes, this whole system better work. So I think what I'm gonna do is, before we make this permanent, is I'm gonna mock up the whole system again and put my X pipe in to make sure everything fits. So I'll work on that and I'll show you the outcome. Fully mocked up, look at this. I even have room for my band clamps. I mean, things just work out for a reason. This is awesome. Check out the front, looking spectacular. There's one issue though, and it's the slots in that cross brace. That's what they look like. They're too short. So luckily we have a slotting tool for that. That's the same on both sides, so I'm gonna have to get the plasma cutter and make those holes a little bigger, which is always fun. But everything else looks awesome. Even have my battery cable is in the right spot. It tucks up there perfectly. So now we can officially move forward with the point of no return. So now I gotta take everything apart, weld those in, and the next step is mocking it up one final time. All right, side rails are complete, and these were super easy when I implemented that shaving trick of the bottom and the side, so that was awesome. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that we have to match this curve on that front flange. So I will be shaving this down a little bit. This is protruding, but I got this tool on Amazon. You guys might have seen it. It mimics corners, like for doing woodworking, whatever. So I'm gonna use it for this, and it mimics the corner. You can lock it in place, so now it's locked in place, and I know that the center here is the center of the tube. So I cannot modify that bend in the flange, obviously. So I will mark it on here according to some tape, but then I'll know that I can bend this little end and this end because it mimics this whole side. That's my plan. See how it works. All right, this is as close as I think I can get it. I've been sweating like crazy. And this is the opposite side. That's how that works. And I basically took my close enough hammer and dollied the hell out of it and tried to get it to work. So let's go put it in the car. Yes, that came out great. I love it. Now I have to do the other side. And I'm excited because metalworking is almost complete. This has been a pain in the ass. After I finish the driver's side, I'm gonna do a final mock-up, and I'll show you what final means in 1 second. All right, final mock-up means I got both rails in. I bolted in the transmission brace, super stiff. Remember, we only have one bolt per corner. And I put the rear brace in. And what we're gonna do now is weld in the rear brace to tie in the two side rails. That means that makes this system one piece. And then I hope I can get it out to paint it. So here we go, I'm gonna weld this in. Okay, driver's side view, I basically have, it looks the same on both sides. I have it pressed in, so it's kind of locking in on this curvature, pushing the side rails out. I mean, a tiny bit, it's not super preloaded, but this one has a little bend in it, where the other side does not. So it's very simple. When I go to weld this, I'm gonna hold this down with my hand clamp, tack it here, tack it in the sides, maybe put a full bead, and then take it out. Oh my God. Okay, hand clamp, tacking. Nice. Hand clamp again. Woo, it's hot. All right, so I don't recommend hand clamping. That was a little warm. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up. I'm gonna take my time. I don't want this to get too hot. Just so the same rule applies to the side rails. We don't want to get it overheated. So I'm gonna add a bead on the inside here. This is all gonna be beaded on the inside. Assuming I can take this out, I will then add a bead on the top side to give it some more strength. Oh, hell yes, boys and girls. My confidence in that Yes Welder has grown immensely since I started this project. Highly recommend it. Look at that bead right there. I just pumped up the feed rate a little bit. Worked great. Oh yeah, rear members welded in, at least strong enough for me to take this thing out. I want to take the whole thing out, including the transmission brace, leave that attached to keep some rigidity, then add some beads on the top, paint it, and then put it back in. And that's going to be next episode because we ran out of time. So thanks for hanging out, guys. But next episode, I'm going to show you guys how to paint with POR15 using an HVLP gun, because painting this with a brush would be extremely painful. So we're going to spray it. And I love painting them with that stuff because that's what I did my existing frame with. So thanks for hanging out. Until next time, build them fast, drive them faster. See ya.